sit, I guess. This is Tortellino, and this is his roadmap to success. The Guardian was just asking about this. This is a mini, and if you have the small, it's like this big. So get him. This is from PetSafe. You can get those on Amazon. They're only this color. This is a mini treat pouch. There are other types of treat pouches. I just like this one because it's got the thing. This one squeaks, but it stays open, and then when you want to, close it, and no treats come out. It's got a couple pockets so you can put. Yeah, thank you, buddy. So you can put poop bags and other treats and stuff like that in there. Okay, so this is his roadmap to success. So let's summarize kind of the stuff we went over in the session. Now, he is a typical Frenchie, and he's acting like a Frenchie now. But basically, now, this sort of behavior should be interpreted as he has too much energy. So I went over using the doggy stairmaster, throwing the treats up and down the stairs. I'd probably go to the second flight. That's where you have the longest flight. Now, I mentioned getting a retractable leash, but I think as long as people don't come in, maybe put a sign up, let your neighbors know in this building and just say, you know, I have a little sign or a sock on the door. It means I'm throwing treats up and down and tell them. Your neighbors have dogs too. They might do it as well. I call it a doggy stairmaster. 5 minutes on the stairs is equivalent to like a 10-minute, or excuse me, like a 20-minute walk. And so setting dogs up for success. If you think, quote unquote, the dog is naughty, or you're gonna have guests come over, or you're gonna practice the leave it exercise we went over, or any of these things, setting the dog up for success by exercising them a reasonable amount, and then you need to give them 10 minutes to recover after the exercise. Now, dogs have what's called a distended stomach. It's not attached to anything, so it's full of food. It'll swing around, and it can tear or it can twist and pressurize and explode. It can lead to bloat, and it can be fatal. So dogs should not exercise until it's been about 90 minutes until after they've eaten, or feed them after you do it. Walking is different than lateral movement. That's where you're gonna get into trouble. Okay, so we talked about other forms of exercise. One of the things you can do is scent games, hiding treats around the place, and then he has to find them. And every time he licks it up, maybe you say search or hunt. I say hunt, find, whatever it is, and just Google scent games. There are a lot of different versions. There's books and DVDs you can buy. You want to go. Now, he doesn't have the best sniffer, but it's much better than ours, and it's very physically draining for them to use their nose. Now, his nose, speaking of which, is pretty dry, and so I would go to Natural Dog Company, and they have balms and ointments for their paws, pads, and for their nose, and I would get some for his nose. It'll help him feel a little bit better. Okay, let me see what else. If you do decide to get another puppy, remember puppy culture. It's called the Battaglia stimulation, where they hold the puppy upright all the blood for 5 seconds from day 3 to day 13. All the blood runs out of the dog's head, and it helps their nervous system, tells their heart to work harder, and they can have a stronger heart. They hold it upside down on its back, and they take a Q-tip to its bottom of its paws. It stresses the puppy out at a time when they don't have, puppies are literally born fearless. So that puppy is now able to separate fear from stress. Most dogs, they're interconnected, and it creates more problems. Let me see. Other things you can do is get the Omega Paw treat ball, that orange ball. I would get the large for his size and feed him some of his meals out of it. Now, be careful for him. If you leave it down, he's probably going to destroy it when it stops paying off. And sometimes you have to nudge that one at first. And last 2 or 3 kibble bits, sometimes they give up, and I just shake it until I get it out of there. So that's a nice one. And then the other one is the snuffle mat. You can make them. I have people who work for me and made them. They say it's not worth the time of making it. Just get it on Amazon, about 18 to 20 bucks, somewhere around there. And just work the food in there, and then he's got to use his nose to find it, move the tassel, lick it up, and it's very energy draining. Last thing is for walks. Dogs burn more energy on a walk by sniffing than they do from walking. Now, running is different. They burn more energy from running. But what you'll want to do is, in a walk, instead of thinking of completing a circuit, say, you know what, I'm gonna walk 10 minutes this direction if I have a 20-minute walk. After 10 minutes, I cross the street, and then I come back for another 10 minutes, so we have fresh sniffs. But you don't care how long you go, because that's not the objective. The objective is to get him sniffing things within reason. Don't let him go on the street or places that are dangerous. Okay, so we also talked about dog psychology. Remember, good attention, bad attention for dogs is the same thing. Anything a dog's doing when you pet it is what you're reinforcing and amplifying, including unbalanced states of mind, like excitement is probably the most common, but fear, stress, anxiety. Now, if aggression, if he is fearful, you can lay your hand on him like this, and they do a stage that touch with affection. But as soon as you start petting him, you'll make him more excited. Now, something we do in our puppy classes, when he was a puppy, his mother would lick him from between his eyes, all along his spine down to here. And that, now I'm not saying you have to lick your dog, but when your puppy's this big, it's one little lick. Well, we're not going to lick the dog, but what I like to do is when the dog is, and we'll do it once he's settled, is pet the dog, and I would do it when he's normally laying down and settled. I would pet him from here in slow strokes, about like that, and say, settle. Now, he's breathing heavy, so that's not a good time, but when he is relaxed and quiet and calm, it says in good dog, pet him and say settle, zen, chill, whatever the word is you want to use, you're putting in context, this command word is linked with this energy level. Now, after you do that enough, and he's spazzy, you can say chill, he now knows what you want. Doesn't mean he's going to oblige, but now he at least understands it. Remember, dogs learn through association, repetition, and good timing. You have 3 seconds to correct or reward them for them to have the ability to make the connection, but it has to be repeated consistently enough times in a row. Some dogs it might be 5 times, sometimes it might be 500 times. And every time it's a different response, that is confusing for them. Now also remember that anything your dog is doing, or anything your dog does in your presence that you don't specifically disagree with, is you're getting your seal of approval. The only caveat to this is if he's doing something to try to get my attention. If he's jumping up on me, I would freeze and become boring. Now if he touches you with his teeth, yelp like, "Woo!" That's how you should do it. And then you freeze and stop playing with him. If he does it a second time, then stand up so he can't reach you. I would play tug of war with him. That's a great opportunity to practice this dexterity of their mouth. Anytime you touch you with the teeth, even if it's accidental, you drop it and then the game stops. This is operant conditioning. So if he does something, his actions kind of contribute to the game. So if he doesn't put his teeth on you, you keep playing. As soon as he puts his teeth on you, you stop playing. We don't use punishment in modern dog training because dogs don't really learn from that. What we do is we create a scenario where the dog can do a couple of options. One of them is what we want. When the dog stumbles across the thing we want, we reward them. Anything else they do, nothing happens. It doesn't take them the punishment. After a while, they just naturally do what you want. Now your dog knows what you want and is motivated to do what you want. Now, what I do is I break the activity down into the absolute easiest version of the activity first. Then I practice the first step over and over until the dog is automatically behaving the way that I want for the first step. Only then do I have the second step. And do the same thing for the second step. Till I've done all the individual steps one in a row, and the dog knows, because I've taught it how I want it to behave, then I string all those steps together. Then we make the easiest situation a little bit more challenging until we work it up until your marching band is coming by and your dog stays on the dog bed or whatever the situation is. Remember, rewarding a dog by breaking a rule is also very confusing and frustrating. Consistency is how it will accelerate things. Remember to only use one command word. Good dog, good sit, good poop. They hear the first word you say. Or if we say good dog, and this is what a mistake, and I think that was going on here, we were talking about it. If I say come, he comes to me, I say good dog. And he sit, I say sit, he sits, I say good dog. Well, good dog means everything. So I say it really twice, and I'll show you real quick here. Tortellini, come. Sit, sit. So I told him what to do during what I call the command stage. When he did it, I petted him, and I labeled why I was petting him, and during the reward stage. That's the important time to say it, not good sit or good dog or any of that, just sit, just come, or whatever it is. Remember for the come, the science of the hand. So you have your hand here slightly cupped, and as it goes down, you curl your fingers up. The lower you go, the more it's for the dog. Usually, he's tired. Now I'd like you to practice that come, that recall exercise that I showed you. One of you sitting over there, one of you sitting here, and say his name, or just say come, and if he looks at you, and doesn't come, then start lowering your hand and go all the way to the floor. When he comes to you, raise it over his head as an arc to get him to sit. After a while, you just go come, and he'll just come to you right away. Always have your fingers curled though, so he can't see it. So later on, if you're outside and you don't have a treat, you can pantomime, pretend and say come. Now don't do that too much because it'll condition him not to do it, but it does work in a pinch. And practice at first, in here, and then eventually you're in the kitchen, and then eventually in the next room. And so he gets practice at coming to you, and every time he comes and you get the treat, he hears the word come. Remember to use the tickle. So, come. I'm tickling him under his chin. Now you put the treat in his mouth first, then he hears the command word immediately after, or I say come. I start petting and say the word right after I pet him. So that kind of classically connects them and makes it more likely that he's going to listen to them. I'd like you to also remember that dogs can read facial expressions. So I'd like you from new commands from now on to come up with funny command words. Like when you're naming all of the toys, which we'll talk about passive training here in a second. But let's stay on a linear fashion so I can kind of remember all the things we went over. Okay, so we also talked about rules. If a dog doesn't have any rules, it sees you as a peer. If it sees you as a peer, then listening to you is now optional. For dogs, burning energy is a form of currency. So if you're yelling at the dog to be quiet from over here, it's nowhere near as powerful as you silently stand up and walk over there because you're burning the energy to walk over there. And always following through is one of the dirty secrets of dog behavior. So make sure you're willing to say, look, I can stop anything, and I'm going to make sure I get my way. If you do that consistently for about a month, the dog will learn, man, he got new religion. And then you tell the dog do it, and they do it right away. Then you can go back to doing what you want to do. But if you're half-hearted about it, you're going to spend the rest of your life doing the other half of the heart. Okay. So let me see. We went over some rules so the dog can see you acting like a leader. The first rule I would suggest is not allowing on the furniture. Now, he's a shedding dog. I'm seeing a little bit of shedding. He doesn't do a ton, but it's not the shedding, but the height. For a dog, the higher they sit, the more rank or social status they have. Celebrate. Pet him under his chin. Say sit.
Sit.
We're going to talk about that for passive training here in a sec. So what I would do is order those X mats. You probably need about 4 of them for here, and you probably could put a couple on here as well. They're about $11 a piece, but the amount of time and effort that you're going to put in policing is really challenging. So what you do is if I want to sit here and there's an X mat, I take it, fold it up, put it right here, watch a little TV. I'm going to go to the bathroom, pull it out, unfold it, put it right here, and he just runs up. He's like, sweet, oh man, the white thing is there. So it conditions him not to go there. At the same time, I usually like to give a dog bed. I would probably suggest right in your corner over here or over there, and then basically get a light cream, white, or light gray, lighter than this. No pattern. And I like the ones that are kind of more like a cushion like this. A lot of people get the ones that have like a duvet cover. There's a lot of crevices like that. Well, sometimes the treat falls in there. I can't see it. If I have one like this and I put a treat, it's really obvious. So at first I throw 10 treats one at a time, and when he licks it up, come up with a name for the dog bed. Call it Warsaw. And then basically he keeps on going over, licks it up, and he walks away, and then we throw it again. He's got to have at least one paw on, and when the treat goes in his mouth, we say the command word. Put a little post-it note on the wall to help you remember. So these are ways to entice him to go there. First one was we throw about 10 treats. Next time is we wait for him to go get a drink of water, and we throw or place another one right in the middle, and we don't say anything. And then he's like, I smell chicken liver. And he goes over and gets it, and then we say the word Warsaw. We didn't tell him what to do, but he got rewarded when he did what we want. Or I can lead him onto it, put him in a sit and say Warsaw, put him in a down and say Warsaw. These are 3 ways to entice him to go there. The next way we do it is when we're just watching TV and he goes over there, I quietly take out a treat and I throw it. So now when I go to Warsaw, it rains treats. Well, I don't mind so much losing the couch because I have my own bed, and my own bed distributes treats. That's a really good positive thing. Let me see, what else did we cover rule-wise? If the guardians are eating something here, you should not be allowed on this carpet. When you might put painter's tape around that table over there if you eat there. Not allowed in the kitchen when we prepare food. And practice having him vacate the area. So if I wanted to teach him to leave here, I could move that third consequence to it and move him away, but I like to do that as a last resort. The first thing I do is I throw a treat here. He gets off here, I would say off. Remember, treat goes in the mouth first, or excuse me, out. Then I would throw one there, then there, then there, then there, all the different directions to vacate this area. Dogs don't generalize well, so I have to practice a whole bunch of variety before they get it. Do the same thing with your kitchen, same thing with your bedroom. So that way when you're in the bedroom, you say out, and he runs out, and then you would go give him and pay him the treat after he complied. At first we throw the treat to entice him, kind of like the dog bed, then we reward him for doing it. Okay, so that's, let me see, those are some examples of rules. The last rule I go over is, well, 2, make sure that you're eating something first, just 5 or more bites of chip, cracker, and if you're gonna eat a real breakfast, put your food down, don't let him eat it. You eat your breakfast first, and then give him permission to eat. Use passive training, come up with a funny word for him to eat. We'll talk about that in a minute. And then the other one is sit at the door. Sit at this door and sit at the door downstairs. Any door, really. But for here, go to the door, tell him to sit. If he doesn't sit within 3 seconds, walk away, sit down, start a 60-second timer. After 60 seconds, go back and command him to sit. If he doesn't sit within 3 seconds this time, I walk away and sit down for 2 minutes, then 4 minutes, then 8 minutes, double the length of time, but make sure you're seated. And because dogs eat in the order of their rank, it's important the human eats first. All right, so I would also, for exercise, the snuffle mat and like I said, the Omega treat ball are a nice way to burn energy. Okay, so we also talked about, let me see, rules. We talked about petting with a purpose. Petting with a purpose is if he comes up and nudges me or jumps up on me, he's telling me what to do. If a dog jumps up on you, they're claiming you. So I wouldn't recommend paw, because if you like this, you must really like this, is how dogs look at it. So he paws at you, I just freeze. That's not what I want. And then I wait for him to dismount on his own. When he dismounts, if I pet him for the dismount, then the only way to get that off is by going on. So when he dismounts, then I would tell him to sit or down. When he does that, pet him under his chin. Remember, pet on the chin. If all things are equal, you can pet him anywhere you want, except for don't pet him on top of his head.
Sit.
Great, celebrate right there. And great job of saying the command word. Remember, they hear inflection. So right there, you heard the guardian say sit in a normal tone of voice. Nothing wrong with saying sit, as long as everybody says sit. Now, if you are trying to get him to come, when I just noticed that, when I said that, he did look at me. So so I say a command word no more than, really I try to only say it twice. I would say come. If he doesn't come, then I would say come. This is the part where you come and make me look good. There you go. Come. So during the command stage, during the reward stage. And again, he's here. I don't like this activity. I'm not going to yell at him because good attention, bad attention is the same thing. So I literally just talked about this. So as soon as he dismounts, I'm going to tell him to SIT. And if he does, I pet him. If he doesn't, he gets nothing. Now, petting with a purpose is if he jumps up on me like this, he's saying pet me, and if I pet him, then I'm rewarding them. That doesn't really look good on TV, buddy, but we'll go ahead with that anyways. So but if I shove him, they have an opposition reflex. The more you push them, the more they're going to push back. Sit. Sit. So I became boring when he jumped up on me. When he got down, I told him something to do that I liked, and then I rewarded for what I wanted, not for what he wanted. Otherwise, it validates what he does. And remember, leaders tell, followers ask. If he tells you what to do, nudges pet you, and you pet him, well, then he's their boss. He told you what to do, and you said yes. So eventually what will happen is he'll realize I can't tell the humans what to do anymore. I have to ask, and better than ask, I have to pay them for the privilege of their attention. And he'll start prepaying by sitting down in front of you to ask for attention. So ask him to sit or lie down. And if he's sitting here, you can ask him to sit over here. I do more sit than down. You can do down too. But the prepay is usually done with a sit. And if he doesn't sit, like I said, he doesn't get any attention. Playing hard to get works great for dating, works great for dogs. And that concentrates or makes your attention much more valuable because he only gets it for compliance. If he doesn't, nothing happens. No punishment, no correction. Good attention, bad attention, the same thing. Use the watchword of paycheck. If so you come in the room, you see somebody's petting him without a purpose, you suspect because he's standing up, you say paycheck. That person stops even if they did it right. And they tell the dog to sit. If he sits for under 3 seconds, you pet her on the chin, say sit. Say, actually, I asked him to sit, and you missed it when you flushed the toilet. He stood up, and you missed that. But thank you I do forget to pet without a purpose. It's not a gotcha. It's a gentle reminder to be supportive of each other as humans. Now, when he does things that you want, I call that passive training. So every time he comes to you, pet him and say come. When you didn't ask him, it didn't influence it. He lays down, pet him and say crash or chill or whatever your word is. Sits down, pet him under his chin and say sit. Name all of your individual toys. He brings you every toy should have its own unique designation. So that way you can tell him, go get Green Goblin or whatever it is. I have 4 dogs. I say grub, chow, feast, and lasagna. Each dog has its own unique command word. I use passive training for that. So when you go to the kitchen, when he's eating, when he takes his first bite for 4 months, come up with your favorite food. Call it Ivanica, or I'm trying to think of any Polish dishes. I can't remember. Dumplings, I know.
Pierogi.
There you go, pierogi. My grandma used to make a lot of dumplings. And so, but so call it dumpling or whatever it is. So every time he takes a bite of food, here's pierogi. Well, then pierogi means I eat food. And so, and also remember to recreate situations to help him practice how you want to behave instead of trying to do it in the moment. I showed you how to recreate keeping him out of the kitchen. You can do the same thing here. Set him up for success by showing him when you have time by creating a lure. Now, you're not always going to drop treats. You can do the bacon thing that I talked about. But the idea is to create situations to help him practice what you want and reward him for doing what you want. So the more that happens, the more he's inclined to do what you want him to do. I went over the escalating consequences. I don't go over those in video, but if you have any questions or forget about those, let me know. Remember, it's one after the other. Now, you can't combine them. You could do the hiss, stand, and march all together. If you've spilled some drugs after surgery, you don't want to get them. But the idea is always start with the hiss, then go to the stand, then go to the march. And eventually, it's hiss, stand, and not needing the march. Eventually, it's just a hiss. Let me see what else. We went over the leave it exercise. I have that video, I guess above, we did on leave it, and we went outside. Now remember, for outside, follow those instructions. I went really fast. I like to give a complete picture of what's going on, but he wasn't ready for dropping it right then. You really want to do it inside where you could drop food on the floor and say leave it, and he looks up at you. Only then you're going to start doing it outside because that's something he really likes, but he did a pretty good job for that. And practice it, and let me know if you have any questions on that. I'm trying to think if there's anything else you want me to cover.
I think that's it.
I'm pretty good at summarizing this. I've done this a couple times. Now, if you do have questions, it's very normal and natural. Please don't wait. A lot of people are like, oh, I want to wait till there's 3 questions. I want you to text me. I'm going to give you my personal cell phone number. I want you to text me. The only reason I get mad at my clients is if they don't text me, because if I don't hear from you, I assume everything's going great. So if there are, and it's very normal to need to make little adjustments right after the session. And I have all these videos that I can share with other techniques. Now, if you do want to work on that, relaxation protocol to teach him to go to your dog bed and to relax while you're in a meeting or people are jumping around your office, it's a great, easy one. I only have to do 1 session with you here, or I can do it at your office if your office is up to that. And then I give you a list and you just check it off, and it's very systematic. Day 1, check, 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 check. Day 2, and by the end of it, you can just have a marching band walk by, and he's just cool. Now remember, they do have an opposition reflex. The more you pull him, the more he will pull back. Please stay away from those pain-causing devices we talked about earlier. And if you do want to work with him on teaching him how to work with a loose leash, let me know. I do that. I'm going to eventually do the class out here. I'm not doing it right now, but I have about 3 or 4 clients that want to do it. So I'm going to do it on the west side. So if you do want to do it on Sunday, I'm going to go scout parks for it. So if you want to do it, it's a really cool thing. It doesn't teach him to walk with a heel, but he doesn't lunge or pull on the leash anymore. And you can walk him around other dogs and squirrels. The cool thing is we set him up for success. And use that exercise like I mentioned earlier. If he's naughty, get him some exercise. If you have guests come over, get him some exercise. You're going to take him to the office, get him some exercise. And remember, it's done multiple times throughout the day. Tortellino, come. Oh, the last thing, remember for those bully bites? Get yourself a vice grip. Put it in the middle of it. That way he can chew on part of it. And just give him a little bit. I mean, you can cut those with, get some wire cutters. Or so give him only a little bit on each side. So if he's only chewing a little bit, that helps him practice only eating a little bit. Then he goes to the other side. And hopefully you won't regurgitate like you did. He regurgitated. It was the same color as his coat, but probably not ideal. All right. Well, this is Tortellino. Yes, I know. I'm going to keep you here because we're getting ready to end this. And this is Tortellino's roadmap to success. Remember, everything you do trains your dog. Only sometimes you mean it.